You may be excited to change your circumstances, but are you willing to change yourself? Most aren't. Therefore, you will remain stuck and bound. I wonder if you were to take an honest assessment of your life right now and your business right now, if there's an area of your life or business that you feel stuck, you feel like you're getting the same results day after day, week after week, maybe even year after year at this point. If so, today's episode is for you. Why is this important? Well, we live life from the inside out, meaning that my belief is that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And in order for your business or your life to grow, you have to grow. How does growth happen? Well, growth happens by being intentional, right? Rule number one, you have to be intentional about your growth. Meaning, have you ever noticed, let's think about your health and fitness right now. What's wild about the health and with my health and fitness? That in order for my health and fitness to get worse, all I have to do is nothing. Just if I stop paying attention, I stop being intentional, my health will decline, meaning it'll get gradually worse over time. But in order for my health and fitness to get better, do you know what I have to do? I have to be intentional. So when it comes to growth in your life, if you desire positive growth, meaning that you look at your life and business and you desire it to get better, you really, really want it to get better, you have to get intentional about it. Otherwise, it's going to get worse over time. So, today's episode, we're going to do a book study together. I'm going to save you some time. I've been going through John Maxwell's High Road Leadership. And then there's a chapter that I've been going through this week that's got my attention. It's titled this: Develop Emotional Capacity. Develop emotional capacity. You may be saying, well, Chris, what the heck is emotional capacity? I'm glad you asked. Here is how John Maxwell defines it. He says that he's talking about your ability to respond to adversity. When I hear the word adversity without even double clicking on it, I think about resistance. It's amazing that whenever you decide to be intentional in a positive way in any area of your life, disruption always comes next. Have you ever noticed that? It's like you start the meal plan and all of a sudden you go to the birthday party and they're having the exact foods that you're looking to avoid. Well, why is that? It's because disruption always follows attention. And I wonder if right now, this year, that you're starting to experience adversity. So, John Maxwell says emotional capacity is your ability to respond to adversity, failure, criticism. Boy, that's a big one right there. Criticism, other people's input. Today at church, actually, the pastor, his name's Chad, he talked about unsubscribing. We're on a series right now, and he talked about how much value, how much weight do you assign to other people's input in your life. And so, when it comes to being a business owner, a lot of times who's attracted to being a business owner, they're the people that on the DISC, DISC profile assessment. By the way, if you haven't taken that, I strongly recommend that. A lot of times people that are business owners like you and I, on the DISC profile, they're usually like a high D or a high I. Think of a high D as they're a driver, they're visionary, they're bottom line. I've already used too many words for a high D personality. It's like, give it to me straight, Chris. Don't say blah, blah, blah when blah will do. And a high I personality, that's going to be someone that's inspirational, motivational. Usually they're optimistic, positive outlook on life. And the reason I bring up the different personalities is knowing myself. I'm a high I, high D, depending on the room I'm in. And I know for me, I could be overly sensitive to criticism. So, what is emotional capacity? It's your ability to move past adversity. How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with criticism from others? And pressure in positive ways. John Maxwell says it's your ability to respond to adversity, failure, criticism, and pressure in positive ways. So the first thing that he talks about in this chapter, and I'm going to save you some time by going through this, so you don't even have to buy the copy. I'll save you time and money today. The first thing that John Maxwell talks about is refusing to be a victim. When I think about a victim, I think about somebody that's always blaming people on for the challenges in their life, right? It seems like they never take ownership. They never own the results they're getting in their life, and they're always full of reasons and excuses that are all external, things outside of them for the reason they are who they are and they have what they have. So these people, they're a victim. John Maxwell says bad things have happened in the past and they will continue to happen them. Others are to blame for their misfortune, right? They're always pointing the finger, passing the buck at someone else. And there's not even a point trying to make a change because it will not work. You talk about like a negative approach and mindset towards life, it's probably not going to go well if we choose to think like a victim. So, so what's the solution to not thinking like a victim? Well, it's on the next page. He talks about taking responsibility. Your ability to respond to the adversity, the criticism, like we talked about. And I'm curious, which is it for you right now? Are you experiencing adversity? Maybe some criticism from naysayers, and also failure. Maybe you've launched a business before, or you're in a season in your business where you feel like no matter what you do, it's not working. By the way, when it comes to failure, I think you only fail if you quit, right? So keep going. John Maxwell has another great book called Fail Forward. And so when it comes to taking responsibility for your life, he talks about a few key things. He goes through a list, and I highlighted these. He talks about your attitude. And here's, you could sense the ownership he's talking about. He says, I recognize that my attitude is a choice. By the way, did you know that your attitude is a choice? I've been going through this book study with a gentleman. His name is Colton. It's my oldest daughter, Shaylee, who's 20. Colton is her boyfriend. And by the way, leaders watching this video, if I had a hack to going through a book, because I'm just like you, like I probably rather not read. There's other things I'd rather be doing. And yet I know that my business and my life will grow to the extent that I do. And so if I had a hack for being a reader, it would be this. Pick a book that I'm interested in, flip through it, make sure it looks like it's on time for me, meaning that there's a likelihood that I'm interested, and then partner up with somebody. Maybe it's a team that you lead. Maybe you decide that, hey, we're going to go through this book and take the next month or the next quarter to go through it together. My point is this, that one of the ways that you can insert more accountability on being a learner is by leading the book study. By the way, you have to stay sharp in order to do that, meaning that if I'm meeting Colton to go through chapter 1, I have to go through it first and think through it and slow down in preparation to have a conversation with another human being about what I just read. That's one of those things that I do all the time. Actually, right now, I have about 3 different book studies going on, but don't put pressure on yourself to have multiple going on, because maybe for you, your next step is to have one person that you read a book with. And so, attitude. He talks about, how do you take responsibility for your life? Well, you choose your attitude. You don't blame others for the attitude that you have or don't have. Next is time. He mentions this. I acknowledge that I have only a set number of hours in a day and I get to control them. I don't allow others to dictate my schedule. And then priorities. It's I'm going to paraphrase this one. It's up to me to choose. Like Darren Hardy says, the big rocks, the priorities in my life, nobody else gets to choose those for me. I get to choose those for myself. Next is potential. Nobody's responsible for me reaching my potential or pursuing my potential. It's up to me to maximize my God given potential. If I don't develop it, nobody else will development for me. And passion. I don't wait for others to inspire and motivate me. This is a drive that comes from the inside. As I share these with you, are you picking up on what John Maxwell is talking about when it comes to responsibility? It's talking about owning the reality that it's up to me on how I manage my time and steward over it. It's up to me when it comes to the attitude that I have. It's up to me to set the priorities, the big rocks in my life. It's up to me to pursue my potential. It's up to you to pursue your passion. It's up to you to pursue your calling. John Maxwell says this about calling. I'm responsible for the gifts and opportunities God gives me. So with that word calling, I grew up in the 90s. I remember when I would go to the payphone and I would use the $5 calling card to call my grandma long distance from Seattle to Kansas City. John Maxwell, when he talks about calling, he's talking about the gifts and the opportunities God gives you. He's not talking about the long distance calling cards like we used back in the day. And okay, the next part that stood out to me that I put a star by is this: make action your priority. I was talking to my wife the other day that with AI and Chat GPT and Google, all of these places that we can go to get information, in today's time, there's so much information out there. It's not the information that we're usually lacking. You know, the biggest challenge, at least for me, is taking action. But I love what the Bible says about this. It says, don't be just a hearer, but be a doer. And I know the context of the verse I just quoted is talking about don't be just a hearer of the word of Scripture, but be a doer of it. I think that's a principle that applies to many areas of life. And so even going through a book like this, it's like, okay, what is the one thing in this chapter that I highlight that stood out to me that I could take action on, because doing leads to discovery. Taking action is where the magic happens. So even you've invested time so far into this video, and so I want you to have ears to hear, meaning open heart, open mind towards one thing that may stand out to you in today's episode, that you don't just say, hey, thank you so much, Chris, that was good, that was entertaining. No, I'm not that funny to be an entertainer, right? At least that's what my family tells me. My point is that even in today's video, what if you highlighted or wrote down one thing that stood out to you, and then you made it a point, especially within the next 24 hours, to take action on that? Did you know that statistically, when we take action within 24 hours, we're like 90% more likely to actually move towards the thing, to accomplish the thing? Meaning, don't just be a listen or a learner. Learn for the sake of doing, not just to know more, because doing is where the magic happens. The next one in this chapter about how to increase and develop your emotional capacity is this: express gratitude. You know, when I think about gratitude, I think about the verse that talks about finding the good. Every good and perfect gift is from God. And so for me, my belief is that I choose to be the type of person that finds the good in others and in the world around me. Think about this: it doesn't take much energy to nitpick and find all the problems with someone else, find the problems in our culture and society. And yet we could just flip on the news and get that, or go to the social media feed. There's so much out there that's not really that good. It's like it's bad news reports. So when it comes to gratitude, I think about finding the good. And I love that John Maxwell emphasizes expressing the good, because I'll share with you one of the traditions that we started several years ago in my household. And I've shared this before, but I want to share this again because you probably haven't heard me share this. It's that, especially on birthdays, what we do is we gather in a similar area, meaning we'll be sitting down in my dining room or at the park around the picnic table or whatever the scene is, and I'll get everybody's attention, and then I'll put the person in the hot seat, not to embarrass them or to shame them, of course, but I give everybody that's there an opportunity to go around and express gratitude, to share what they love and or appreciate about that person. And I always give people a free pass in case they're super uncomfortable or maybe a guest for the first time at that party or event. But I think about what it says here, the importance of expressing gratitude. You know, say you have a loved one, a family member, a friend, maybe even someone that you're in business with, that you've hired in your business maybe. If you just, it's not enough just to find the good about them, right? Because if you just think about the good that person does and what you love and appreciate it about them, but you just keep that to yourself, who does that benefit? I mean, that pretty much just benefits you if you keep it to yourself. So how do we bless others? Well, we open up our mouth and we express that gratitude. Maybe it's not even open up in your mouth. Maybe you do a handwritten card, or you write a letter. The point is don't let that gratitude just die inside of you. Gratitude is maximized And it's multiplied when we actually take the time to get intentional to express that towards the person that we're grateful for. So don't keep the gratitude that you have to yourself. Put it out there to the person, put it out there to do some good for the hearer. This next one this next one could be challenging. It talks about control your emotions and process them quickly. Keyword quickly. He shares a statistic. I'm going to read this one to you. Psychologists have discovered that 95% of your emotions are determined by the way that you talk to yourself as you go throughout your day. So here's my question for you. As you go out through your day, how's your inner talk with yourself? How's your communication to yourself? What is it you're telling yourself about yourself when you're all by yourself? I think it's one of the biggest challenges in today's culture that we always have the cell phones and the screens in front of us. And I was thinking about this, even at Starbucks. I'm getting ready to meet with a gentleman tomorrow morning at Starbucks. And I know at Starbucks, it's going to require a lot of intentionality from me because I can get distracted and lose focus easily. Meaning, someone may catch my eye. I may see someone I know. There's background music going on. Sometimes it's so loud I really have to focus in to hear the words that the person across from me is saying. My point is that we live in a day and age where it's easy to live life completely distracted, even when we're sitting across from one that we genuinely love and care and want to learn more about and listen to. So how are you being intentional to know your thought life, to know what's rolling around in your mind about yourself? I'll tell you this, I have a coach's heart. You know my biggest challenge though? My biggest challenge is I could kindly and generously speak words of affirmation, calling out the good in you or somebody that I know. But on the inside, I could be overly critical of myself. And I wonder, would you ever talk to someone else like you talk to yourself? That might be interesting to think about. So back to that statistic, 95% of your emotions come from or are determined by the way that you choose to think about yourself. John Maxwell talks about keeping short accounts, keeping offenses for a very short period of time. Notice he doesn't talk about being bulletproof, meaning like just don't be offended, Chris. No, that's not real. That's not reality, right? There's going to be things that happen. People are going to say hurtful things, rude things. People are going to be people, right? But it's like, how can we be resilient to where that criticism doesn't get into our heart, where we start to meditate or to stew on that, to where it starts to take root and grow and we become bitter and resentful and hard-hearted? He talks about keeping short accounts. Here's what I highlighted. If the other person is in the wrong, I make the intentional choice. I love the word intentional, meaning it's not going to happen by accident. Make the intentional choice to forgive them and then move on. So somebody does something that's hurtful. He proposes making the intentional choice to forgive them. A mentor of mine, shout out to David Higginbotham, he's taught me different language that's equally as powerful, but I find it more helpful. It's not the word forgive, it's to let it go. To let it go. And then I move on. I have places to go and important tasks to accomplish. It would slow me down and hinder my leadership if I allowed myself to get bogged down by negative emotions. So are you tracking with the wisdom that John Maxwell is giving us? He's not saying if you get offended. He's saying when you get offended, make an intentional choice to forgive, to let that person go and move on. Otherwise, it's going to hinder you from the goals and the ambitions that you have for you, your family, your business, and your life. It's going to mess all that up if you choose to hang on to it. The next thing John Maxwell says is learn to put other people's opinions in perspective. He says, he who has no opinion of his own, but depends on the opinions of others, is a slave. I'm going to read that again. He who has no opinions of his own, but depends on the opinions of others, is actually a slave. One of the most limiting beliefs people hold is that others' opinions about them are more important than your own. And I'm going to share this quote by John Wooden. So what I'm doing is I'm sharing with you, I'm doing a lot of reading, but I'm sharing with you what I highlighted in this chapter that was meaningful to me, and I trust it's going to be helpful for you as well. So this is John Wooden. It says this: do not be too concerned about what others may think of you. Be very concerned about what you think of yourself. So I wonder what is it you believe and you think about yourself? Are you overly critical of yourself? Or do you talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend in a loving, respectful, kind way? It may be time to take inventory on your inner talk with yourself. The next point that John Maxwell makes is talking about becoming comfortable with discomfort. I was thinking about this, that one of my core values, like my top 5 values, is growth. But growth always happens out of my comfort zone. Yes, growth is important to me. I like that part, but the part that I don't like is how growth always happens in an uncomfortable way. If it were comfortable, it wouldn't cause me to grow. And so all progress requires change. All progress requires change. So if you look at an area of your life that you desire positive growth in, maybe it's in a key relationship, maybe it's financially, maybe it's in your health and fitness, maybe you desire to grow spiritually, how you're going to make positive forward progression in any area of your life, it's going to require you to do something that you're not currently comfortable doing. It has to. And so I wonder what that area is for you. Would you be willing to share with me what area of your life you're looking to grow and improve in? And let's not stop there though. Since growth requires intentionality, how are you going to be intentional this year to grow? One of the themes that I have for this year, meaning the books that I read, the people that I study, the podcasts that I listen to, one of the areas of my life that I'm looking to level up is communication. Communication. I think that the more effective I can learn to communicate with myself and in life, with my family, my friends, like communication is the one thing that as I get better in, as I get more effective in, it positively impacts every area of my life. I wonder what area of your life you're looking to grow and be intentional in. I love this quote. It says, anything I've ever done that was ultimately worthwhile initially scared me to death. It's probably not going to come easy or naturally. And that's the opportunity. If it did come easy or naturally, you would already be doing it, right? The next one is keep growing your capacity so it's always greater than your responsibilities. When responsibilities is greater than capacity, you experience burnout. When responsibility equals capacity, we experience chronic stress, he says. And then the last one, this is where the magic happens. When responsibility is greater than capacity, we experience sustainable success. And so I know that's one of those things that you and I desire, sustainable success. I talk about the roller coasters in business, right? It's where, especially when someone's launching a business, they don't have any clientele. So guess where they spend all of their energy and effort at first? They spend their energy and effort on one thing, which is obtaining clients, client acquisition. And then what do you think happens when they find their clients? They get hyper focused on the client and they stop doing the activities. They stop having the conversations to generate clients because they got so focused, they got hyper focused on having a client. And that's what keeps us on that hamster wheel of always looking for the next deal, the next lead in our business. We want to get off the crazy roller coaster of those ups and downs, and we want to have sustainable, long-term success, not only in our business, but in our life. One of the pro tips that John Maxwell has in this chapter is find healthy ways to manage your responsibilities and to set boundaries with others. He talks about counting the cost of your commitments. What are you committed to? Who are you committed to? Are you overly committed? Are you being a yes man or woman? Are you in a season where you need to say no to the good in order to go to the great? There's only so much time, energy, and bandwidth that each one of us have. I wonder if you're in a season where your word for the year could be no, meaning you need to start saying no in order to grow and go to the next level. Next, he talks about seek proactive ways to increase your capacity, such as focusing on your strength, seeking spiritual nourishment, taking care of yourself first. The very last thing is he talks about maintaining your physical health. This is one of those areas that it's like being on the airplane, right? I'm sure you've experienced this before. You've heard this before. What do they tell you to do on the airplane? You know, when you first sit down and they're getting ready for takeoff, the person comes in the aisle that is going to take care of you on that flight. And what do they tell you to do? They say that in case that if there's a shift or a sudden change in the cabin's air pressure, what do they say is going to happen? The oxygen mask is going to drop down from the ceiling. You grab it, you put it on yourself first, secure it, and then you help your neighbor. Notice the order. They didn't say help the person next to you first. No, they said put it on yourself first. So I wonder for you in this season, what does it look like for you to maintain your physical health? And sure, you could get crazy with it and start doing all these, marathons and these long races. But I wonder for you, maybe it's more like getting your 10,000 steps in a day or your 1,000 steps a day. I think for each one of us, it's important to figure out how we're going to move our body in a sustainable way, meaning that we do it daily, that we develop some healthy habits when it comes to physical health. Maybe that's an area for you this year that would be the most important and urgent thing for you to focus on. The very last thing he talks about is promoting your mental growth. The essence of high road leadership is serving people and giving your best to them. That's possible only if you have something to give and you possess the capacity to give it. Here's the bottom line. You can't give to others what you don't have. Why is taking care of your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, all the different aspects of health, why is that so important? Is because you can't give to others what you don't have. And here's what I know about having a big heart and caring about people and loving people, is that there's a temptation to take care of everybody and everything around you and yet neglect yourself. So what's the one thing that you could do this year that would move the needle forward in taking care of yourself? John Maxwell ends this chapter in bold letters on the paper. He has the pathway to developing emotional capacity, and he has one word written down, and it's this. It's resilience. The key to developing greater emotional capacity is resilience. And he defines resilience as the ability to recover or adjust easily to misfortune and to change. In order for any area of your life to get better, in order for your business to get better, let's shift from just having the desire for the circumstances to get better and embrace the journey of you getting better yourself. And if your goals are meaningful, serving people, helping your clients, benefiting them and your family in order to create a win-win, I think you'd be naive to think that you're not going to have some disruption, some challenges, some criticism, some failure. You're going to need resilience, the ability to press on, to keep going regardless of circumstances. I would love to hear from you. If you've listened to this far, number one, congratulations. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because 9 out of 10 people who tune into my podcast channel, they're not subscribers. So will you do me a favor? It's the one thing that you could ask, that I could ask of you, that doesn't cost anything. Will you subscribe to my channel? And then also, I'm curious, what is it for you? What's the one thing that if you focus on this year would make it the best year of your life, the best year in your business? What's the one area of your life that if you're intentional about your growth in, it could change everything for you? Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.